I'm a nurse. I'm an education specialist with Elderwerks. Been in the healthcare field my entire career, working with seniors and their families and guiding them through their dementia journey for over 20. So let's get started here. Want to start by asking you a simple question. When was the last time your loved one did something that made you pause for a moment? Maybe they repeated a question, or they forgot something important, or maybe just acted in a way that just didn't feel like them. And something, your spidey sense was peaking. For many families, that's the moment that is the beginning of a journey that they really never expected to take, certainly a journey that no one ever wants to take. And along the way, things that maybe once felt simple, like cooking or bathing, moving safely throughout their home, starts to feel a little bit more complicated and uncertain. But the good news is you can help prepare. So many of the changes that make the biggest differences can actually be small and thoughtful adjustments in your home. Today is not about doing everything perfectly. It's really learning about understanding what's happening, learning some practical ways to create a safer, more calm, and more supportive home and environment for your loved one and for yourself. Safety in dementia isn't just about preventing accidents. It's really also about preserving that person's dignity, reducing fear, helping your loved one feel secure in a world that really is slowly becoming unfamiliar. And one of the most important things to understand about dementia is it's not static. It changes over time. And because of that, safety needs will change too. So the webinar really is about helping you prepare, so it's just not about reacting. It's about learning how to anticipate what may come so that you're really not caught off guard. And it's also about understanding that adjustments along the way aren't a sign that something is wrong. It's really what will be a normal part of that journey. So we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for doing the best that we can with the information that we have, and to keep our loved ones safe while really, again, preserving their dignity and their independence as long as we can. So let's get started. We'll cover today understanding what dementia is, how it affects the brain, recognizing how dementia does change safety awareness, identify ways to keep your loved ones safe at home, understand the importance of caregiver self-care, and know when and how to ask for help. So let's begin. So in order to understand why we're suggesting some modifications, it helps to have really a basic understanding of what dementia is. Dementia isn't a specific disease, but it's a term for a group of symptoms that can be caused by several disorders that affect the brain. It's important to know that people have notably impaired cognitive functioning. And what physicians will look for is that it interferes with what we call activities of daily living, your normal activities, your relationships. Executive functioning turns into an issue. They lose their ability to problem solve, sometimes maintain their emotional control. You might see personality changes and behavioral problems. And memory loss is a common symptom, but that alone doesn't mean that a person has dementia. To be diagnosed, a person has to have two or more deficits in their brain functions, like memory and language skills, or sensory. And this is due not because of a loss of consciousness. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, and again, caused by changes in the brain. Most dementias are progressive and not reversible, but some symptoms, dementia-like symptoms, may be caused by treatable conditions like a urinary tract infection. And you always want to check someone's hearing too. You might feel that they have withdrawn from conversations and communicating, but it could be that their hearing has been affected. So when we talk about dementia, you've got to think of dementia as a broad umbrella term. And again, it covers a group of symptoms related to memory and judgment and language and complex motor skills and other intellectual functions. And it's caused by the permanent damage or death of the brain's nerve cells, which are called neurons. We know that dementia is chronic, it's progressive, there is no known cure. The specific type of dementia and its symptoms depend on which areas of the brain are affected. For example, we know Alzheimer's disease primarily impacts memory, and vascular dementia can result from damage to blood vessels in the brain from a variety of strokes. Important also to note, dementia is not a normal part of the aging process. But again, important to get checked out when you see some symptoms, because some dementia symptoms can be attributed to other treatable conditions. So again, important to get evaluated as soon as you notice anything. Wanted to show you this slide. I know there's a lot of facts and numbers on there, so it's not to overwhelm you. It's just to remind you, number one, that if you are on this journey, you're not alone. Millions of families are navigating this right alongside you. If you want to learn more about these statistics, the Alzheimer's Association site has an annual report, and they have a tremendous amount of very interesting statistics, some of which are 7.2 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's. And in 2025, that was the first time the number surpassed 7 million in the United States. So that's important to note, that this condition affects the aging population. The aging population is growing, so there will be more people suffering from dementia. And approximately 1 in 9 people age 65 and older has dementia. So again, it just notes the prevalence of the disease. So again, take a look at the Alzheimer's Association annual report if you want to learn more about some of these statistics. So let's begin. But before we talk specifically about safety changes, it's important to understand really why safety becomes a concern in the first place. Dementia doesn't just affect memory. It affects how someone understands and interacts with everything in the world around them. For example, judgment and decision making are often impacted. Someone may forget how to safely use appliances, or misjudge a situation, or not recognize that something is dangerous. There's also changes in awareness and what we call safety awareness. A person may not realize that a stove is hot and what the consequences of that is, or a floor is wet. Again, that they may slip and then hurt themselves, or that they need help getting up. Your orientation can change as well. Someone may become confused about where they are, even if it's in their own home that they've lived in for 50 years. They may think they need to go somewhere, which can lead to wandering. Often that occurs because they don't feel safe in the moment, even though usually people feel safe at home. Something may have changed. Physical changes occur, balance issues, slower reaction time. That increases the risk of falls. So, equally as important, there's changes in how the brain processes things, how your visual field changes. Depth perception is turns into an issue. Shadows and patterns may become confusing. Something as simple as a dark rug may appear to someone with dementia like a big hole in the floor, so they may not want to step forward. You may notice changes in behavior, increased anxiety, fear, suspicion, again, especially in unfamiliar or even overstimulating environments. And again, all these changes together means that the environment that once felt safe can suddenly become challenging or even dangerous. But again, we need to take a look at many of these risks that can be reduced with thoughtful changes. And that's what we're going to go through today. Want to talk about this Reisberg theory of retrogenesis, and this can help in figuring out the need for safety, why we need to change things, and where our loved one living with dementia might be in the needs in our process of changing things. So there is a theory called the Reisberg theory of retrogenesis. And when I was first learning about dementia, this helped me tremendously. One of those aha moments. There was a neurologist and researcher, Dr. Barry Reisberg, who developed this concept, and it literally means back to birth. And he had concluded that Alzheimer's disease unravels the brain almost exactly in the reverse order as the brain develops from birth. So there's a correlation between the stages of dementia as with the stages of human development. If you've ever heard the statement, once an adult, twice a child, for individuals living with dementia, they age backward as their cognitive abilities decline. So when you think about someone living with dementia and how they regress in their cognitive abilities, the last skills that they acquire are the first ones that begin to deteriorate. And so if we look at the age comparison between dementia and the developmental stages, we can see, for instance, the comparison of a person living with mid-stage dementia. They have the behaviors and the cognition of the developmental age of a toddler. So think of all the safety concerns you may have had as either you were raising children or sitting for children or just what toddlers are like. Think about, would you let your toddler cross the street alone? No. So someone in mid-stage dementia should not be crossing the street alone. Would you leave them home alone with food on the stove? No. So these are some of the things that you need to think about as you're thinking about safety as a primary concern, especially when keeping your loved one at home through their dementia process. It can be done, and people do this successfully, but you need to know where they're at in their stages and what the concerns and safety concerns can be. So home safety modifications. Basically, we want to simplify and organize. And when it comes to making a living space safer and easier to navigate for a person living with either Alzheimer's disease or related forms of dementia, simplifying and organizing is really a great place to start. Over the years, things like mail or gifts that never were used or clothes and magazines that tend to accumulate and fill up the house. So you want to concentrate. I mean, you need to understand that concentrating and processing information and finding things at home then become increasingly difficult for someone, really anyone living in a messy environment, and then add on someone living with dementia. Clutter can be especially disorienting and definitely not safe. So Let's also share, I want to share some basic principles before we go room by room. So first, simplify the environment. Too much clutter, too many choices can really be overwhelming and confusing. So a simpler space is easier to navigate and it is much safer. We need to remove hazards. So you need to look through your home through a different lens. Are there rugs that are tripping hazards? Are there cords that could be tripping hazards? Are there sharp objects? Are there chemicals that may not seem dangerous to us, but they could be for someone with dementia? Look around at your lighting. Good lighting really helps reduce confusion. It prevents falls. It can decrease anxiety. Shadows in dark areas can be misinterpreted if the lighting is poor. Keep routines consistent. Familiarity creates really a sense of comfort as well as security. And the more predictable the environment and the daily routine, the better it is for someone living with dementia. Finally, provide supervision when needed. As the disease progresses, there may be times when your loved one simply cannot be left home alone safely. So these principles are the foundation, and then everything else that we talk about today will build upon these ideas as well. Simplify and organize, reduce clutter, create a more organized space. Over time, we all accumulate things, papers, decorations, extra furniture. But someone living with dementia, too much visual information can really be overwhelming. Clutter becomes a safety hazard. It increases the risk of falls. It makes it harder to find important items. So try to keep commonly used items in the same place every day. And as I'm saying all these things, we learn that these are really life lessons, right? If you put your keys in the same place every day, you're going to find them. And it helps certainly more so with the person living with dementia. Consistency helps reduce frustration and confusion. Clear walking paths are so important. Make sure there's enough space to move safely, especially if balance is an issue and you're using a mobility device. Then we need to make sure that there's enough space to be able to walk through with a walker or a cane or even a wheelchair. It doesn't mean that being thoughtful about simplifying and organizing means your house has to feel empty. It just means you need to be more thoughtful about what is necessary and what might create confusion and then risk. So a simple, more organized environment really helps your loved one in feeling more confident, more independent, and then ultimately safer. So let's take a look at bathroom safety. Slips and hot water burns can happen very easily in the bathroom. So we need to make various adjustments that can reduce risks. Experts recommend adhesive strips in the showers and bathtubs to prevent slips, replacing a step over bathtub with a walk-in shower or installing a bench. Instead of using a towel rack as a handle in the bathroom, grab bars give people living with dementia a sturdier and more visible option for something to hang on to in order to prevent a fall. I'll tell you a story, as I'm presenting this to you. When we were in the midst of COVID, my dad was living in an independent living community, and I was still doing these kinds of presentations. And he moved in with a caregiver into our home. And I thought I had everything prepared for him. And about a month in to about the 8 months that he was living with us, his caregiver came to me and said, "Do you think we could install some grab bars?" And I went, "Oh, I do this for a living." And I forgot that my own father could benefit from grab bars. So we immediately did that. So we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for what's the best that we can do, and don't knock yourself over with guilt that you haven't done something right like I did. Um, So again, those grab bars are extremely important for many reasons. You know, if you walk into your loved one's home and you see that the shower curtain is off or the toilet paper roll is on the floor, they might be using that as security to help them, you know, lift up off of the toilet or coming out of the shower. So they could really use grab bars, and that's for any senior, not just somebody with Alzheimer's. Um, but also, as Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia progress, they may also alter people's sense of touch. So that's why it's very important to install those scald protection features on faucets, which detects if water reaches unsafe temperatures. You can get that, make that adjustment on your hot water. Um, don't leave someone with Alzheimer's, if mid to late stage, alone in a bathroom. Um, Use a raised toilet seat with handrails. If you notice, and this again is for seniors as well as someone living with dementia, if you see them requiring the arms of a chair to get up, then good chance that they're going to need those same arms to be able to get up off of a toilet seat. There are foam rubber faucet covers to prevent injury, and they're often used for small children, but you can use that for helping with falls as well. Use a plastic shower stool, handheld shower to make bathing easier. Um, Set the water heater at 120 degrees Fahrenheit max to avoid scalding in tap water. Remove cleaning products from under the sink, lock them away. Make sure that there's a night light, and remove small electrical appliances from the bathroom as well. You might want to cover the electrical outlets as well. Kitchen safety accidents are prone to happen in the kitchen. People leave stoves on for hours at a time, and sometimes people will use their stoves to store things. And then you'll walk in the home and there'll be the mail is sitting on top of the stove, or they're putting boxes inside the stove. If that's the case, it's time to turn off the stove, because these are tremendous fire hazards. Install child-proof door latches on storage cabinets and drawers. That if there are designated breakable or dangerous items, make sure that they are locked away. All cleaning products, matches, knives, scissors, blades, small appliances, anything that you might find valuable, these should be locked away. If normally prescription and non-prescription drugs are kept in the kitchen cabinets, store them in a locked cabinet. Remove scatter rugs or foam pads from the floor. Safety knobs and automatic shutoffs should be on the stove. Many new stoves, you can use apps to turn them on and turn them off. Keep a nightlight as well in the kitchen. Remove or even secure the family junk drawer. A person with Alzheimer's may eat small items like matches or erasers. Again, go back to that Reesberg theory. What are toddlers putting in their mouths? Remove artificial fruits and vegetables, or food-shaped kitchen magnets that might appear to be edible. You might want to insert a drain trap in the kitchen sink to prevent anything going down it that might become lost or clog the plumbing, that someone with Alzheimer's might not realize would interfere with drains. Consider disconnecting the garbage disposal, because someone with Alzheimer's may place objects or even their own hands in there. So again, these are all just things to be aware of. Bedroom safety. Anticipate the reasons why a person with Alzheimer's might get out of bed. They might be hungry. They might be thirsty. They might need to go to the bathroom. They might be cold. They might just be restless. They could be in pain. So we need to try to meet as many of these needs as we can by offering food or fluids at the right time and scheduling these things, ample toileting, use a night light, use a monitoring device to alert you to any sounds. There are also bed alarms that you can install that can indicate a fall. Or again, just somebody getting out of the bed. Remove portable space heaters. If you use a portable fan, make sure that it's placed that someone can't get their fingers caught in it. Be cautious when using electric blankets or heating pads, things like that that can cause burns or a fire. Keep the controls out of reach. Again, if the person with Alzheimer's is at risk for falling out of bed, you might want to place a mat that, God forbid, they did fall, they would fall on something that was soft. Make sure you're using transfer or mobility aids as well. For living room safety, once again, clear electrical cords from areas where people walk. I had a woman who was living with Alzheimer's. She also had oxygen, and she had oxygen cords going all over her apartment. Very, very dangerous for her. So we had to come up with some different solutions for her. Remove any scattered rugs or throw rugs that are trip hazards. Repair or replace any carpet that's torn. If you have a sliding glass door, place decals at eye level so someone won't walk through the window. Um, uh, don't leave someone alone with an open fire in the fireplace. I mean, some of these sound logical, but again, we need to remember what we're doing and who we're dealing with and what the potential safety concerns are. Again, matches, lighters, keep them all out of reach. Remote controls for the television or some kind of stereo system in your home might look foreign to them or might look like a phone. So they may pick it up, try to make a phone call. So remote controls might need to be taken away at that point in time as well. Lighting, good lighting is so important. It's really the key, both day and night for a person living with dementia. Vision problems become more common with normal aging. And then because dementia affects parts of the brain that interpret visual information, and it really will intensify age-related vision problems, you need to be aware of that. If I don't know how old all of you are who are with us today, but if you're, in your 50s and 60s and you go into even younger, into a restaurant and you need to use your flashlight to be able to see a menu, that worsens with age and it worsens with Alzheimer's. Your field of vision decreases. So, if you put your hands out to the side, and wiggle your fingers, you can see them at the side. But a person at mid-stage dementia, their field of vision ends up like this. So they can only see what is in front of them. So when you come from the side, you might spook them, or you put down food in front of them. If it's not in front of them, they may not be able to see that. So there's field of vision problems, there's depth perception issues, diminished tolerance of glare, difficulty distinguishing objects from one another. So adjusting the light may not only help them navigate better, but see things more easily. And then it will decrease dementia-related confusion and anxiety and even aggression. the light should be even and consistent. So try to keep the light at a similar level throughout each room in the house. So there's not dark corners or dark hallways. Sometimes uneven lighting produces patterns and shadows, and that can cause agitation and confusion. Even on a bright day, some spots in the house, like a closet, may require extra lighting. Um, so we just need to be aware of all the different types of lighting and drapes and shades on windows. Slits in the blinds can cause some distortion and confusion as well. But again, those dark shadows that are created can create lots of confusion and fear. Um, Floors and stairs, anything on the floor, especially in walkways, can lead to trips and falls. And so these aren't, trip hazards and fall hazards aren't limited just to clutter. According to the CDC recommendation list, coiling or taping appliance and phone wires and extensions and extension cords to the baseboards and removing throw rugs or make sure they have non-skid backs. That can reduce some of the risk. But again, be careful, on wood floors if they're too slippery. Make sure that the floors are dry before someone is able to walk on them. If you do have a basement or lower levels, use gates if need be, or safety locks on doors. Stairways should be equipped with railings on both sides for security. So again, these are things that you need to be aware of. Laundry rooms and utility areas. If possible, lock the doors to the laundry room or put those big handles over the doorknob that prevents somebody from being able to turn it without grasping it tightly, which they wouldn't be able to do. Um, um, Also, even putting a sign that says stop, do not enter, that sometimes prevents people from walking through a door that they shouldn't be. Keep all products, especially chemicals, in a locked cabinet. Or if they aren't able to reach, then make it high enough that a person living with dementia couldn't see or reach these products. Don't keep the Tide Pods in sight or accessible, which can be mistaken again for candy and food. So just be careful and take a look around at what could be dangerous. Medications. Place all meds in either a cabinet that can be locked, preferably higher than they can reach. Use a system, not dispensing right out of a bottle. That's extremely helpful. It helps you as well as the person living with dementia keep track to make sure that their pills are taken daily and at the right times. Make sure you stay with the person as they take their medications. Check the floor and the chairs that they're sitting on for loose pills because sometimes they'll fall or drop. Um, for dispensing medications, you can go to your local pharmacies. You can go to the large pharmacies. They all can provide dispensers for your medications and will put them in the dispensers. As far as all entrances and exits, make sure that there's a latch or a deadbolt that's either above or below eye level. That would prevent someone with mid to late stage of dementia from opening the doors because they won't see them. Sometimes removing locks on interior doors to prevent the person living with dementia from locking themselves in or turn the lock around. Keep an extra set of keys hidden near the doors for easy access. I had a family, the dad turned into a wanderer and was constantly going out the front door. They painted the inside of the door like a bookcase. And once they did that, that stopped him from wandering out. It didn't look like a door anymore. Um, Mark the edges of steps with bright or reflective tape. You may need to install a ramp with handrails as an alternative to steps. Um, Take a look at uneven surfaces or walkways, and try to eliminate those kinds of hazards, hoses or other objects outside that may cause a person to trip. Our sidewalks are always never, you can be assured they are not even. So make sure that while you're walking with that person, you can make them aware that take a step up because the sidewalk is uneven here. Those rugs, make sure that they are skid proof. Use textured strips or non-skid wax on hardwood floors to prevent slipping. You can put alarms on all your doors and windows to make sure that you're aware if they're being opened or closed, and cameras around the sites as well help secure the areas. Wandering, Wandering and pacing are very common behaviors in dementia. Our goal isn't to stop someone from walking, but wandering off alone and getting lost, that's our goal. We want to be safe. But walking movement can be calming and beneficial, but again, it needs to be safe. So if someone leaves the home unsupervised, it can quickly and easily become a life-threatening situation, which is something we absolutely, of course, do not want. So, how do we support safety? There's monitoring system, motion detectors, door alerts. There are loud alarms that can sometimes be frightening, so quieter systems can be used to notify a caregiver. Remote alerts, bells, chimes, that the door is opening and the camera will show that someone is leaving the door. GPS systems that you can put on your loved one to track them. Tracking systems can be used as well. It's also important, especially early on, to involve your loved one in the conversation whenever possible, especially again in those earlier stages where they can help participate in some of the decision making here. Because not everyone will immediately agree to the changes, but it can help you focus on what shared goals are. So you can ask things like, what's most important to you? What are your hopes for where you live? So if they say they'd like to stay at home, then your response can be something like, I want that too, and that's important to me. But in order to make that happen, there are things that we need to do to help keep you and I safe. And can we talk about these things together? And then that approach helps maintain independence, dignity, it builds trust, and then often leads to better cooperation. And with the right balance of safety and respect, we can help manage wandering in a way that supports, again, independence as well as safety. So, as much as we all want to keep things safe and want to keep things sane, dementia is progressive. So things are going to need to change over time. So we need to remember that there are times that we're going to need to reassess. So what you've done at the beginning, you may need to change certain things. So, but the bottom line is we need to maintain safety. So if you're noticing falls or near falls, that's one of the early indicators that the environment may need to be adjusted. If your loved one is wandering or has gotten lost, even in familiar places, then that's additional safety measures need to be put into place. Medication errors, if you're noticing that there were missed doses or double dosing, or there's some confusion, like you might see someone leaving the stove on, forgetting how to use certain appliances, watching for increased difficulty with everyday tasks. Sometimes it could be even more subtle. just increased confusion, anxiety, or changes in behavior. And that may make the home environment feel less safe or more predictable, unpredictable, I should say. So when you see these signs, it doesn't necessarily mean your loved one can't stay at home, but it may mean it's time to add support, make changes, or bring in help. The goal for all of this is not to wait for a crisis. Recognizing these moments early, making thoughtful adjustments, keeping everyone safe and supported. So think of it as another checkpoint to adjust and continue safely with your loved one at home. When we take a look at the garage or the basement or the shed, that is, I don't know about yours, but I would not want someone with dementia walking through my garage. Um, Basement doors, if you can, again, lock them high enough, even with a latch that someone can't reach or can't see them, and it should be remain locked unless you need to enter. Cleaning products, toxic liquids, paint, they need to be stored away in a locked cabinet. Don't ever let a person living with dementia be alone in a shed or a garage or a basement. If you have an attached garage, you may consider moving your automatic door pad higher so it's out of reach. Don't leave your keys in your car. So you need to think again as if you had a toddler living with you. And when I talk about things like that, please know it's never to treat someone like a child, talk to someone living with dementia like a child. It's it's to remember safety issues and where their cognition is and what their awareness to the world around them is. Again, not to treat them like a child, but prevent accidents from happening. So also emergency preparedness. There are activation criteria for silver alerts, and they vary from state to state. Some states limit them to persons over age 65 who have been medically diagnosed with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia or mental disability. Some states expand, including all children and adults with mental or developmental disabilities. But in general, the decision to issue a silver alert is made by law enforcement. But if a person who is living with dementia is missing, report them immediately. The name, description of the missing person, if there's a vehicle and license plate number. So make sure that you have all this information at your fingertips. Cameras in the home are so essential. You can see what a person was wearing before they left the home or as they were leaving the home. Make sure you have all the emergency phone numbers that you need for police, fire, poison control. Make sure all your devices in the home are in working order. That's your carbon monoxide and smoke detectors, that you have fire extinguishers available. Make sure you're replacing those batteries twice a year at least. And again, always keep a short medical history, including the diagnosis of dementia, including the medications that they're on, accessible, whether it's on your phone. When I used to work in an independent living community, we kept it in an acrylic container in the freezer in each apartment so that the paramedics knew that they could get information if need be at their fingertips. Firearms, remove firearms from the home with someone living with dementia, store them locked and secured, keep keys or codes inaccessible. Bottom line, if someone in the home is living with Alzheimer's or other dementia, firearms really pose a significant risk for everyone. As the disease progresses, a person may not recognize someone that they've known for years. They might view them as an intruder with a gun accessible. The result could be disastrous. So again, if at all possible, remove the firearms from the home, but definitely keep them stored, locked and secured. One of the most important things to remember is that when a person is living with dementia, what they see or feel or believe is their reality. So again, another one of those aha moments and statements in my dementia education was when you're living with or loving or taking care of a person living with dementia, remember that they are no longer coming back to your reality. So it's now time for you to get into their reality. So when we argue or try to correct them, it's really futile, and all that will do is increase their frustration and anxiety and distress, as well as your anxiety and frustration and distress. So instead, we want to validate their feelings and respond with empathy. So, you never want to say, well, that's not true. You can say, I can see why that would feel upsetting, or tell me more about what you're thinking. In earlier stages, a person may still want to drive. It's important to gently assess safety and make thoughtful decisions as needed. Sometimes simply keeping car keys out of sight can reduce that trigger to invite them to drive without creating conflict. Sleep may be disrupted, so limiting naps to maybe one short nap earlier in the day, better for nighttime sleep. Music is always a powerful tool. And again, often one of the last abilities preserved. It can help calm and engage someone. It can create those moments of joy and connection with your loved one. Routine is very important. Familiar patterns really help reduce that confusion and create a sense of security. If something in their routine is going to change, like there's a holiday or an event, it's often best to mention it closer to the time of the event so it doesn't cause unnecessary worry. And then you get those questions and phone calls. During meal times, try to reduce distractions, turn off the TV, keeping a calm environment and focus on one thing at a time. Sometimes using solid colored plates at meals that contrast with the food can make eating easier. Um, it's important to engage with your loved one in ways that are meaningful, whether that's music. That again can be very powerful. A simple activity, just sitting together, holding their hand. The journey we know can be challenging, but your presence, your patience, your willingness to meet them where they are really will make all the difference with them. Walking alongside them in this journey, letting them know they're not alone, that creates a supportive environment. Now, caregiver self-care, you can't be a caregiver without caring for yourself. Um, that when they say on an airplane, if you need oxygen, put your oxygen mask on first, then on your child. That's because you need to be able to breathe before you can help someone else. So taking care of yourself is so important. If you don't, it's so easy to become exhausted, frustrated, and feel alone, like you are alone in the world and taking care of the most difficult process that you've ever experienced. So taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of your loved one. Some tips. Create a special time and place for yourself, whether it's in your bedroom with the door closed for a short period of time. Take a bath, Go to a nearby coffee shop and sit back and relax. Enjoy a hobby. Try to step away for 30 to 60 minutes a few times during a week. A short break, you'd be surprised what that can do. If you need a longer break, consider adult day programs or respite care, which many communities and senior living settings offer. Um, when people offer to help, there are people in your life that want to help, but they don't always know how. Keeping a simple to-do list. When someone offers help, give them something specific from that list. My personal example, when my dad was living with us, we were all isolated. My brothers would call and say, "What can I do?" And I said, "You know what? Each of you once a week sending in a dinner would be a tremendous amount of help." And they did, and it helped. It also helped my dad know that the boys still cared about him. They're still thinking about him. "Dad, this pizza was sent in by Mark." And he loved that. Also know um, remember that when your loved one is saying something or doing something, it's the disease talking. It's not necessarily that person that you knew as your mom or your dad or your loved one. It's the disease. Grief is part of this journey. With dementia, it can happen in stages as you experience the different losses over time. So give yourself grace, give yourself permission to feel that grief. It's completely normal. Journaling can also help process emotions. It can bring moments of gratitude and clarity. Support groups are incredibly helpful. Talking with others who understand what you're going through can help reduce those feelings of isolation. Very important, movement matters. Exercise. It doesn't have to be complicated. A 20-minute walk. It can improve mood, reduce stress. But again, remembering you're not alone in this and that it is okay to ask for help. That's most important. I want to leave you with a few resources here. The Alzheimer's Association, the National Institute on Aging. Please feel free to take a snap with your phone of this page. There's a home safety checklist for Alzheimer's disease on the National Institute on Aging. There's a tremendous amount of information online. Remember, you don't have to do everything at once, nor do you have to do everything perfectly. One small change, whether it's better lighting or removing a rug, or if it's creating that routine, one of these can make an important safety and meaningful difference, really both in safety and your peace of mind. I know, and we know, dementia changes so many things: memory, behavior, independence, but it doesn't take away the need to feel safe and feel valued and feel loved. So the environment that we create, the tone we use, the patience that we offer, these are things that help our loved ones feel grounded in a world that really no longer makes sense to them. So that provides safety and security and love for them. So remember, you are not alone in this. Utilize these resources, utilize support, reach out to Elderworks, reach out to the people who have offered to help you. Um, you know, Use these resources for support. There's people that understand what you're going through. At the end of the day, the journey isn't just about safety, it's about preserving that connection and that dignity and that love, and trying to create joy every day, both for the person living with dementia and for you, the caregiver. Even on the hardest days, remember that you are important, they are important. You're doing the best that you can. Make just small adjustments along the way. That's part of the journey. And it's part of the love that, you bring every day to the person that you're caring for. So I appreciate your time today. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them at this time. If you think of questions afterwards, please feel free to take down my email address and don't hesitate to reach out to Elderworks for resources or to work with one of our advisors or again, just to ask some questions.